The day my sister-in-law had an amniotic fluid embolism while giving birth, I was vacationing in the Maldives. After my phone got flooded with calls, I accidentally dropped it into the sea, all because in my previous life, I used my professional judgment to tell the doctor to remove her uterus immediately and urged my husband to sign the surgery consent form without delay. Thanks to the timely intervention, my sister-in-law survived, and the baby lived as well. But on the day my daughter got into Qingbei University, my husband doused both me and my daughter with gasoline and burned us alive in the final moment, his face twisted into an extreme expression. Who told you to spout nonsense, causing Xinyao to lose the chance to become a mother again? You also made it so Xiaobao couldn't be born naturally, so now he'll never be smart enough to get into a top university. You and that little bastard both deserve to die. Only then did I realize that his heart was entirely with his foster sister and her child. When I opened my eyes again, I bought a plane ticket straight to the beach, just to get it all out of sight. When my phone slipped into the water, I didn't panic at all. Instead, I kicked it even farther away. What bad luck. After 3 days of soaking up the equatorial sun in the Maldives and eating so much seafood that I nearly got sick of it, I finally took my time heading back to China. I bought a new phone. And the moment I inserted the SIM card, thousands of messages flooded in like a tidal wave. Harsh words like selfish jerk, shameless, and little witch instantly pierced my eyes. Before I could even process it, Gu Yongfan's call popped up on the screen. I took a deep breath and still pressed the answer button. Song Qingqing, where the hell have you been? Do you have any idea that Xinyao almost died, as her own sister-in-law and a senior gynecologist, instead of staying at the hospital? You went on a beach vacation. Do you even have a conscience? Did you know Xinyao's uterus has been removed? I was so furious I almost laughed. What does that have to do with me? I remembered how in my previous life, my daughter and I were burned alive by him. No matter how I cried and begged, he emotionlessly shut the escape door. If being sincere as a person only gets me killed by those closest to me, then I have no choice but to set aside my conscience, suppressing the urge to kill. I said expressionlessly, got it, I'll come back. After sending my 3-year-old daughter to my parents' place and telling my mom to stay at our hometown home for a while, I returned to the Gu family home. Before the door was fully open, a bag of trash was thrown directly at me. Diapers filled with feces and urine, along with toilet paper stained with milk residue, scattered all over me. You little wretch, so you remember to come back. How could our Gu family have married such a selfish woman like you? What a disgrace to this household. My mother-in-law jumped in front of me, pointing and cursing. My husband and father-in-law sat on the sofa, their cold, reproachful gazes completely undisguised. I brushed the filthy things off myself, gazing coldly at my mother-in-law, who had never looked kindly upon me. I sneered, yes, I'm unqualified. Isn't your favorite daughter-in-law always Gu Xinyao? As soon as I said this, my mother-in-law, who had been cursing like a fishwife, froze stiff. It took a long while before she spoke again, but the guilt in her eyes was impossible to hide. What nonsense are you talking about? Her words were still reproachful, but her fierceness instantly wilted in my heart. I understood everything clearly. The countless restless nights of my previous life had finally found their answer. Gu Xinyao's child really is Gu Yongfan's seed. No wonder he has always loved Xiaobao more than his own daughter. Every time I asked him to pay a bit more attention to our daughter, he would always morally blackmail me. Xiaobao doesn't have a father. What's wrong with me caring more as his uncle? Why are you so selfish? He slapped the selfish label on me for over a decade, leaving me unable to defend myself. Alright, stop talking nonsense. Gu Yongfan frowned, came over, and pulled me onto the sofa. Then he stuffed a document into my arms. We're planning to seek compensation from the hospital. You're the professional. Take a look at this complaint letter and tell us how to revise it properly. All the blood in my body rushed backward. This hadn't happened in my past life. The next moment, I suddenly realized, in my previous life, I had been the lead surgeon. There was no reason for him to cause trouble. But later, the Gu family used the fact that I had performed a hysterectomy on my sister-in-law to morally blackmail me for my entire life. A chill ran through my heart. Gu Yongfan, seeing that I wasn't moving, impatiently tapped my arm. I winced and instinctively looked down at the document. The moment I saw the name of the attending physician, I froze completely. He let out a cold laugh. If you don't want to die, don't go. Too. As soon as he finished speaking, Gu Yongfan slapped me across the face. What nonsense are you talking about? A searing pain shot through my face. I jumped up to confront him, but my mother-in-law shoved me hard, sending me sprawling to the floor. My back hit the floor, and I hissed in pain. Gu Yongfan didn't even glance at me. His voice cold as he said, "If you keep jinxing me, I'll beat you to death. Take good care of Xinyao at home. As the eldest sister-in-law, you should act like one." The three of them hurried out the door. I struggled to my feet from the floor and cast a cold glance at the front door left wide open. I took out my phone and sent a message to that familiar number. The reply came quickly, "Don't worry, leave it to me." Gu Xinyao, standing on the doorframe in the bedroom, let out a chuckle. "Sister-in-law, the way you're lying on the ground looks like a toad." I ignored her, but she had no intention of letting me off. A string of demands tumbled out like beads. "Sister-in-law, I want to drink blackbone chicken soup with some ginseng in it. When you wash my silk pajamas, you have to do it by hand. My brother spent a whole month's salary on it for me. What if it gets ruined? After you're done with the chores, come and fan me. You know you can't have the AC on during postpartum confinement." I stared quietly at my sister-in-law and then, despite myself, laughed in exasperation. In my previous life, I devoted myself to her wholeheartedly. After she announced her decision to have and raise a child on her own, I took even more meticulous care of her. Yet only at the moment of my death did I realize that the sperm she had supposedly purchased at a high price from an overseas facility was actually Gu Yongfan's. This family is twisted beyond measure. Gu Xinyao's biological parents died young, so she was adopted into the Gu family. The Gu family wanted a good reputation, and I was their shield. Seeing that I didn't move, my sister-in-law immediately became furious. She hadn't expected that her sister-in-law, who had always been like a fool in her care for her, would dare to disobey her. After all, that was in the previous life. Until the moment she went into labor, I was still accompanying her in the hospital, afraid that she might start giving birth without anyone noticing and delay the delivery. "I am not your servant." With that, I went into the room. "In this life, I just want to stay away from these people." Gu Xinyao stamped her feet in anger. As if out of spite, she picked up her phone and called Gu Yongfan. "Brother, my sister-in-law is cursing me. Come back quickly, or she will bully me to death." "Brother, my stomach hurts so much, right where the uterus used to be." I don't know what Gu Yongfan said on the phone, but the next second, my phone kept ringing non-stop. I simply blocked him. I grabbed my bag and left. I went to my friend's law firm and asked her to draft a divorce agreement for me. Sipping my coffee, I scrolled through Gu Xinyao's Moments feed. At 27, I'm a strong independent woman, single, with a child and family, and my brother's love heart. The accompanying photo shows a Hermes bag placed on the table amid a screen full of envy and congratulations. She posted a separate, pointed comment: "Some housewives can't hold on to their husband's love, so they see every woman in the world as an imaginary rival, sucking up to men to the extreme. It's just that an independent woman like me chooses not to stoop to their level." I casually blocked her. I thought to myself, looks like that family succeeded in their trolling. They even got a Hermes bag out of it. But didn't Gu Yongfan ever realize that every gift arranged by fate comes with a hidden price tag? To get Gu Yongfan to sign, I still went back to the Gu family. This time, no one gave me a hard time. Several people were gleefully counting money at home, and the entire coffee table was piled high with cash. My parents-in-law were grinning so much they nearly dropped their teeth. Gu Yongfan, rarely, gave me a look, no longer angry, and said with a hint of showing off, "Song Qingqing, so you've come back. Didn't expect this, did you?" With just one move, I got 5 million. "That doctor's a coward too." Before I could even say much, he folded, and he claims to be some foreign postdoc, still just a quack. I didn't say anything. Perhaps it was my sudden silence that made a flicker of guilt cross his eyes. Then, as if bestowing a favor, he tossed a small box from the sofa onto me. "There, don't say I never think of you, bought it specially for you." I opened it and saw it was actually an Hermes lipstick. I sneered inwardly, this must be a freebie. Not seeing my reaction, he rambled on boastfully, "Your favorite bean paste color." I remember it very clearly, my favorite bean paste color. How would I know that? When he and I were dating, I told him that since childhood I've had sensory overload and don't like wearing makeup. Back then, I was the host at an event. As soon as I stepped off the stage, he immediately took makeup remover out of his bag and told me to take off my makeup right away. That small gesture touched me, and I agreed to his pursuit. I don't want to say more. I directly pulled out the divorce papers. "Sign it. There's no point in continuing this. I get custody of the child, and we split the assets equally." 3. What's wrong? Touched. He was still immersed in the image of the good husband he'd built up in his mind, talking nonstop. Suddenly hearing the divorce agreement, he sharply raised his voice. "What, are you sick? I bought you a gift." and you want to divorce me." His eyes were gloomy, and he almost growled out the words. The mother-in-law also stopped counting the money and said with a hint of disgust and wariness, "Song Ching Ching, you're just trying to get your share of the money, aren't you? Let me tell you, you can get lost, but this money was paid for with Xinya's womb, so don't even think about getting your hands on it." Hearing this, Gu Yongfan let out a mocking laugh with an expression that said, "I knew it all along, I knew it. How could you suddenly have an episode like that?" I felt like this whole family was mentally ill, but I held back my temper and said, "I don't want this dirty money, read the divorce agreement yourself." Gu Yongfan frowned deeply, after seeing that the assets listed were really just our 200,000 yuan in savings. He signed it immediately. He threw the divorce agreement in my face. "Get lost, you're sick in the head." I moved straight out of the Gu family home and into the property I owned before marriage, but a few days later, the Gu family's medical dispute incident went viral on social media. The whole internet exploded over the family's ungrateful act of extorting money. Outraged netizens flooded the comment section. "What a trash family, why don't they just die?" I finally understand the saying. Advise someone to study medicine, and you'll be struck by lightning. Return the money. Shameless family, why isn't their info out yet? Soon, the Gu family was completely exposed. Red paint was splashed on their doorstep, and the in-laws were too afraid to even leave the house. I thought they would finally stop after that, but I hadn't expected what came next. Gu Yongfan actually started a live stream right away. In the stream, he knelt directly in front of the camera, crying with real emotion. Every word from his mouth admitted he was wrong, but the truth was, he genuinely didn't know that this behavior was wrong. The only reason he did it was because his wife, who works as a doctor, told him to. "My wife just said this would help us get money. Our whole family is honest and simple, so of course we had to follow the advice of a professional." He also revealed that he had originally intended for me to deliver the baby, but I deliberately disappeared right before Gu Xinyao gave birth, just to force their family into starting a medical dispute. As soon as this livestream came out, almost all of public opinion turned around. They dug up all of my information and concluded that I was the mastermind behind it all, a doctor, plotting a medical dispute behind the scenes. How utterly heartless, and a gynecology specialist. Is she trying to block the way for every woman about to give birth? Who would dare save anyone after this? Isn't this person a sociopath? She looks pretty good, but I didn't expect her to be a freak. Let me take care of her. I found this completely undeserved disaster utterly speechless. I took a leave of absence from the hospital. I also gathered all the information on the netizens who had slandered me and handed it directly to my lawyer friend. After the cooling off period, Gu Yongfan and I agreed on a date to get the divorce certificate, but I never expected that as soon as I stepped out of the Civil Affairs Bureau, a crowd immediately surrounded me. Almost in an instant, Gu Yongfan put on an innocent and pitiful look. "We are already divorced, it's all her fault. She made our whole family go and beg for money." A group of people who had completely lost their reason surrounded me. Before I could even speak, I was kicked to the ground. I was brutally punched and kicked. I didn't, but no one heard a word I said. This group even started a live stream. A warm-hearted netizen did a good deed by helping others, violently attacking the demonic female doctor. Online and on the scene, everyone cheered in approval. After a long while, the group finally stopped. Only after venting their emotions. There wasn't a single part of my body that was unharmed. I mustered all my strength to sit up, and just as I opened my mouth to explain, a surge of blood rushed up my throat. I immediately spat out a mouthful of blood. It wasn't me, but the next moment, Gu Yongfan suddenly cut me off. "Song Ching Ching, are you still not going to admit your mistake?" He lowered his head and whispered in my ear, his words like a demon's murmur. "No matter how much you explain, it's useless. Why not just boost my popularity? Then I'll split the money with you. How about that?" The suffocating sensation from just before I died in my previous life came flooding back. I pushed him away hard and was about to speak, but then I saw a figure rushing over from behind the crowd. I let out a breath. "The one who's going to deal with him is here." A lawyer in a black suit walked up to Gu Yongfan and said expressionlessly, "Gu Yongfan, you are fired from the Shin Corporation. Over the past few years, using your position as financial director, you have embezzled 10 million yuan in company assets. You have 3 days to return the money to the company account." Gu Yongfan, who had been gloating moments ago, now went limp in the legs and collapsed to the ground. As his phone rang, he answered it instinctively. Gu Xinyao wailed hysterically, "Brother, you have to check online." Before he could even open the app, a pop-up window appeared. It is a video. At the beginning, in the hospital, The Gu family begged the doctor to save Gu Xingyao at all costs, no matter what it takes, keep Xingyao alive. Gu Yongfan clenched his teeth and pleaded with the doctor, but right after they signed the papers and the doctor entered the operating room, their demeanor completely changed. Where did that little wretch Song Qingqing go? Is she hiding on purpose? Son, when she comes back, you need to teach her a good lesson. Gu Yongfan, with a grim face, kept calling my phone, his every move fully captured by the hallway surveillance camera. Next scene, Gu Yongfan and a few others were at home writing a complaint letter. Xinyao's uterus cannot be removed for nothing. If this lousy hospital doesn't pay, I won't rest. Gu Yongfan's twisted, extreme expression was especially startling. Suddenly, I pushed the door open and walked in. Gu Yongfan asked me how to revise the complaint letter. I refused outright. They also warned them not to do this. After this scene ended, the onlookers surrounding Gu Yongfan and me were all utterly shocked. They never expected that they had wronged an innocent person. One after another, they began apologizing to me. We were deceived too, Dr. Song. A magnanimous person like you shouldn't hold a grudge against us. Yes, we meant well. After all, who doesn't have a pregnant woman who needs to give birth in their family? I said nothing. The video continued. This time, it was when Gu Yongfan was livestreaming his apology. It was just recorded from another angle inside the house. The moment Gu Yongfan turned off his apology livestream, he immediately changed his tune. These netizens are idiots. They believe anything they hear, just like locusts. Gu Xingyao, however, proudly suggested, "Bro, this is a great opportunity. Let's use this hype to make money. Just say that Song Qingqing told us to do this, and we're just outsiders who don't understand." The video ended. The whole audience fell silent for a moment. But the next moment, all the onlookers exploded with rage. They never expected that from start to finish, they had been played for fools. Gu Yongfan realized something was wrong and wanted to run away, but he was immediately stopped by a burly man. "You fooled us, and now you think you can leave?" Overwhelmed with grief and anger, he vented all his fury on me. "Song Qingqing, you vile woman. How dare you secretly install cameras at home? Did you do it on purpose?" I gave an innocent smile. "Well, I've lost several pieces of my jewelry, so I just installed a camera to catch the thief." His face turned crimson, but he couldn't come up with a single retort because it was true that I had lost things ever since we got married. "I've lost several pieces of the jewelry I brought as my dowry." I wanted to call the police, but Gu Yongfan always stopped me with all kinds of excuses. In my previous life, I only found out 10 years later that all the heirloom jewelry I brought as my dowry had been stolen by Gu Xingyao. She never wore them in front of me, but that one time, their whole family went on a trip and posted on Moments, forgetting to block me. That was when I finally knew. Thinking of this, my expression turned even colder. Looking at Gu Yongfan, who was still putting up a desperate fight, I sneered, "If I were you, I'd be starting to sell the house by now." "You," ignoring him. I scanned the crowd of onlookers who were gleefully watching the scene. "I'm going to the hospital right now to get a medical report on my injuries. Not one of those who laid a hand on me will get off easy." The group immediately fell into utter panic. Almost instantly, their attitudes changed completely, and they said, "Dr. Song, we were deceived too. Do you really have to be so stubborn about this? Talk about biting the hand that feeds you. It's not like they seriously hurt you. Isn't it just a few scratches and bruises? Please let me off. Dr. Song, I have a wife and kids to support. They depend on me." No matter what they said, I simply couldn't hear them. Getting into the car, I watched as the group, furious and humiliated, surrounded Gu Yongfan. They beat and kicked him, venting all their anger on him. After arriving at the hospital, I went straight to have my injuries examined, handed the report to the lawyer, and also called the police. But just after doing all that, someone suddenly called out to me from behind. "5. Qingqing, long time no see." Xin Yenshin, wearing a white coat, stood against the light, which only accentuated his tall, long-legged figure. The young man who once always had a smile at the corner of his mouth had now become someone whose emotions were unreadable. My pupils dilated slightly, and I was stunned for a second, but I quickly returned to normal, tugged at the corners of my mouth, and suppressed the strange feelings in my heart. This time, thank you. Regardless of what my feelings for him used to be, I still needed to express my thanks this time. "Qingqing, are you really being this polite with me now?" He sighed, his mood clearly low. This expression of his overlapped somewhat with how he looked back in high school. He was my first love and also my desk mate in high school, but after we submitted our college entrance exam preferences, he disappeared without a trace. I searched for him desperately for a year, only to receive a screenshot from a mutual friend in the WeChat message. His tone was ice cold. I'm bored of this. Tell her to stop looking for me. From then on, I locked my heart and poured all my energy into my studies. Later, I was accepted directly into a PhD program in graduate school. I met Gu Yongfan. His warmth and thoughtfulness won me over. We got married. He came back right when I was pregnant. Only then did I find out why he had left without saying goodbye. Back then it was because after his father passed away, he left a suicide note bequeathing most of the family estate to the illegitimate child and the mistress. The family fought tooth and nail, bitterly and ruthlessly to protect him. His eldest brother forcibly sent him abroad to protect me. He could only break up with me through cold detachment. Everyone had their own difficulties back then. What's done is done. He and I can only ever be strangers. If it weren't for the trouble caused by Gu Yongfan's family, I would never have contacted him. Memories flooded my mind, and 1,000 emotions churned within me. But in the end I just sighed and forced myself not to dwell on them. I'll go first. I turned to leave, but Shin Yenshin grabbed my hand. His palm was cold, yet fine cold sweat kept seeping from it. He urgently began to speak. Qing, can you give me another chance to win you back? This time I will never leave. I will stay with you and Tao Tao for the rest of my life. If I can't do it, I'd rather die. I could hear my heart pounding like a war drum. Just as I was about to refuse, someone suddenly burst in from outside. Well, so that's how it is, Song Qing. It looks like you've been cheating on me all along. And with this quack who cut out Xinya's uterus, flustered and furious, he pointed at me and started hurling insults. This is all your scheme, isn't it? You and this other man conspired to have Xinya's uterus removed, then deliberately trapped my family, all just to get a divorce. He grinned savagely, as if he had just uncovered the truth. I'm going to expose you two bastards. Shouting, he took out his phone and aimed it at us. Shin Yenshin's expression darkened instantly, his eyes turning shadowy, unreadable. I stopped him. I calmly blocked his move, and a single sentence brought Gu Yongfan to a complete halt. Gu Yongfan, which do you think would make bigger headlines, your baseless suspicions, or the paternity test between Gu Xinya's child and you? Gu Yongfan turned pale, his words tumbling out incoherently. You, what nonsense are you talking? Then, without waiting for my reaction, he staggered away. I watched it all with a cold sneer. Did Gu Yongfan really think I wouldn't look for evidence once I noticed something was wrong? The day I returned from the Maldives, I had already found the child's hair sample at home and sent it to the testing agency, and the result was exactly as expected. 6. Gu Yongfan had wanted to keep a low profile for a while, but the heat of this incident had long since gotten out of control. Within just a few days, he received a lawyer's letter. If he didn't repay the money, he would face imprisonment. He had no choice but to return the 5 million yuan he had scammed to the hospital to cover the money spent on Gu Xinya's bag. He had to dip into his own savings. As for the 10 million yuan from the company, he had no intention of repaying it. The company's money wasn't taken by him alone. He confidently approached his superior, Deputy General Manager Liu. He wanted Liu to handle it. After all, most of the money had been taken by Deputy General Manager Liu. Even Deputy Liu, who had always treated him like one of his own, refused to see him. Gu Yongfan finally began to panic. He staked out the front of Deputy Liu's residential compound day and night, and after several days, he finally managed to catch him. But the moment Deputy Liu saw Gu Yongfan, he looked as if he had seen the plague. He started cursing at him. Are you out of your mind, Gu Yongfan? You're the one who pissed someone off and dragged me into it. How dare you come to me? If it weren't for you, would I have been exiled to a branch office? And I even had to make up the shortfall out of my own pocket. You probably still don't even know which big shot you crossed. Gu Yongfan frowned deeply and nervously begged Deputy Liu to tell him, you fucking offended the young master of the Shin family, the company's second largest shareholder. After saying that, he pushed Gu Yongfan away and ran off, cursing as he went. What bad luck, Pui. Gu Yongfan felt his blood run cold, and only then did he truly panic. He had joined the Shin Corporation right after graduation. Over the next few years, he got promoted repeatedly, and in the eyes of those around him, he was a winner in life because the Shin family was already the richest in Jiangqing. The legal department of Shin Corporation was called by the people of Jiangqing, Jiangqing's Sherwin Pizza Hut. Once I make a move, I've never lost. The Gu parents also panicked. To keep their precious son out of prison, they had no choice but to sell off several of their apartments. On moving day, Gu Xinyao cried miserably, like a rain-washed pear blossom. It's all the eldest sister-in-law's fault. If she hadn't framed us, how could we be so pitiful? Gu Yongfan heard Gu Xinyao's words for the first time. He felt annoyed. It was always the same. No matter what happened, everything got blamed on Song Qingqing. He interrupted Gu Xingyao expressionlessly. Enough, if you hadn't squandered all that money. Would we have to sell the house? The money Gu Yongfan secretly transferred out of the company, all because back then, Gu Xingyao was bleeding abroad and complained to Gu Yongfan every day that she had no money to spend. Over time, Gu Yongfan strayed on to the wrong path. At that moment, he felt that his innocent and adorable adoptive sister had completely transformed into a repulsive version of herself, or maybe she had always been like this, he just never noticed. I'm back at work. And because of the backlog, I'm busier than before, coming home in the early morning hours. One quick glance from downstairs, and my heart skipped a beat. The lights were on in the apartment. Instead of rushing up, I went straight to the property security and asked them to come with me. When we opened the door, several of the Gu family members were sitting casually in the living room. The whole place was a mess, with a cloying, sweet smell of milk in the air that was absolutely nauseating. Why are you only coming back now? Have you been out fooling around? My mother-in-law looked at me and spoke with contempt and criticism. Come back earlier from now on. As a daughter-in-law, be more virtuous and do some cooking. I clenched my fists and snapped, get the hell out. As soon as I said this, my mother-in-law exploded like a powder keg, jumping up and pointing at me as she launched into a tirade. You little wretch, I gave you a chance to come back to the Gu family, and you still won't cooperate, huh? There isn't a daughter-in-law like you anywhere in the world. This is utterly unfilial. My father-in-law sat on the sofa, his eyes filled with utter disappointment, his voice pained. Qingqing, you've caused our Gu family to lose our home. Are you really going to leave us on the streets? Gu Xingyao, holding her child, rushed over and knelt right in front of me. Her expression was utterly humble as she kowtowed to me. Sister-in-law, I was wrong. Sister-in-law, don't make things hard for mom, dad, and my brother. I'll leave on my own, little treasure, and I will just beg for food. Gu Yongfan's heart ached at once. He had always cherished Gu Xingyao in the palm of his hand, and now she had humbled herself so much for the family's sake. He immediately pulled Gu Xingyao into his arms and comforted her in a soft voice. Only when Gu Xinyao's sobbing quieted down did he look at me with a pained expression, as if under immense oppression. He said to me, Song Qingqing, I'll remarry you. Alright, our family has nowhere to go now, and you're just going to stand by and watch. I almost laughed in anger. What does that have to do with me? 7. Isn't he just reaping what he sowed? Gu Yongfan, if you can't afford a mirror, I can sponsor you. What do you mean? Gu Yongfan frowned deeply, as if he didn't understand what I meant. I gave a cold laugh. You cheating, second-hand man. Do you really think you're such a catch? Glancing at the few people glaring at me furiously, I said in a cold voice, get lost. I called the security guards to kick them out immediately, throwing them and all the stuff they had moved out of the compound. Gu Yongfan still looked utterly unconvinced. Right before being driven out, he pulled me aside with all his might and, thinking himself deeply affectionate, began, Qingqing, I already know I was wrong. I know you still have feelings for me, otherwise you wouldn't be so angry. Let's get back together. If you don't like Xingyao and the child, I'll send them back to their hometown so they don't get in your way. I was speechless. He really thinks too highly of himself. I directly kicked him away. Gu Yongfan, if you want to die, go die somewhere far away. Later, they yelled and howled at the entrance of the neighborhood for hours. The residential property management directly called the police. When I saw Gu Yongfan again, he was peddling goods in a miserable state on the street. All the designer brands on him were gone. Upon seeing me, he immediately rushed over, but I just stepped on the gas, leaving him behind. I thought everything was over, but then my mom suddenly called and told me Tao Tao was missing. Qingqing, I just turned around to pay, and Tao Tao disappeared. What do? I called the police, but there's still no result. My heart skipped a beat. I was just about to book a flight and rush back. Then my phone rang. It was an unfamiliar number. The moment I answered, it was Gu Yongfan's voice, wild and frantic. Song Qingqing, if you want your daughter to live, come to the cliff edge from back then. Before I could reply, the call ended. My ears rang, and cold sweat instantly soaked through my back. I raced as fast as I could to the cliff edge where he had proposed to me all those years ago. One look was all it took for me to lose every shred of reason. He had actually hung our daughter over the cliff with a thin rope. Mommy, save me. Tao Tao's little face was as pale as paper, her entire body trembling. I nearly fell to my knees on the spot. Gu Yongfan, let our daughter go, I beg you. With a thick taste of blood in my throat, I nearly roared out, she has Your blood running through her veins, the past life and this moment completely overlapped. I had still underestimated Gu Yangfan's shamelessness. He actually went all the way to my hometown to take my Tao Tao away. Gu Yangfan stood at the edge of the cliff, his expression twisting to the extreme. His eyes were full of madness. Give me 2 million, or I'll let go of the rope. He didn't feel he was wrong at all. It was the world that was wrong. Isn't it just a small mistake he made? Why must you keep hounding him? He has already lost everything, his job, his possessions, all gone. Yet even when he tries to work as a salesperson, there are people who curse at him. Within a month, he was fired by several companies. In the end, he was blacklisted in all the HR groups in Jiangqing. He had been job hunting for days and was already falling apart. But as soon as he got home, his mother grabbed him and complained that the family had no money, telling him to hurry up and earn money to bring home. Gu Xinyao always tugged at him, acting coquettish as if she were utterly delicate. Brother, our little one eats too much, you need to go buy a few more cans of formula. He coaxed Gu Xinyao softly, suggesting she supplement with some breast milk. He was under a lot of pressure himself, but as soon as Gu Xinyao heard that, she threw a tantrum. It all boiled down to one sentence: you promised me back then. He was tired of it, tired of everything in Jiangqing. He wanted to start over. He would go abroad, leaving everything behind. Almost immediately, I transferred 2 million into Gu Yangfan's account. The moment I saw the account credit notification, Gu Yangfan revealed a devilish smile. Go to hell. The next second, the rope was released. Without a moment's hesitation, I jumped down. I finally held my wailing daughter in my arms. Fortunately this time, the ending was different. My daughter and I were caught by the rescue blanket that had been prepared at the bottom of the cliff. In the ambulance, my daughter hugged me back and said through tears, "Mom, it's so good that we both survived. We weren't burned to death, nor did we fall to our deaths." My pupils dilated slightly. It turned out that my daughter had also come back. Gu Yangfan was caught by the swarm of police officers, and all that awaited him was an endless prison sentence. Half a year later, I finished work and went to pick up my daughter from school. Then, on the street, I saw 2 elderly people picking through trash. When they saw my daughter and me, they quickly covered their faces and fled as fast as they could. Ever since Gu Yangfan's kidnapping of his own daughter came to light, Gu's parents became like homeless strays. Everyone assumed that raising such a depraved son meant they must be just as depraved. No one would even rent a place to them. In the end, they had no choice but to live under a bridge. As for Gu Xinyao, shortly after Gu Yangfan's downfall, she married an old man with a green card. She went abroad with her child and was never heard from again. Returning home, the rich aroma of home cooking filled the air. The man in an apron was holding a plate of sweet and sour spare ribs, mine and my daughter's favorite. His eyes and brows were gentle, like the kindest moments of time gone by. The end. That concludes the first story. Don't go away. The next story is even more thrilling. On the last day of my 80-year life, I lay in a warm cotton bed, feeling the final moments of my existence slip away. My husband, no longer young himself, knelt by the bedside, clutching my hand tightly and weeping bitterly. Yulian, wait for me, don't leave." I forced my eyes open, wanting to see him one last time. Just as my consciousness began to fade, I heard the thoughts he had hidden for 20 years. "You ugly old woman, you should have died long ago. Your wretched life has finally run out. Tomorrow I can finally bring Qingshua's ashes home. She was the only woman I ever loved." It turned out that he resented me for using my status as an educated youth to take away everything that should have belonged to Jiang Qingxue. He resented me for being selfish and greedy, using schemes to trap him and forcing him to marry me. What he resented most was that I caused Jiang Qingxue to be beaten to death by domestic violence after marrying someone else, and her body was left in the wilderness for 3 days before anyone found it. I went back to the day of our engagement, facing all the excited relatives and friends in the room. I spoke directly. He and I just happened to run into each other a few times in the village. The woman in his heart is Jiang Qingxue, the educated youth from the city. These words were like a boulder crashing into a calm lake, and the crowd that had been all smiles just moments before fell into dead silence. Wang Tianhe, who had been sitting properly beside Li Tsuehua only a moment ago, suddenly stood up and roared at me with an ashen face. "Yulian, are you out of your mind? What nonsense are you spouting? In my past life, on a summer day just like this one, the Wang family brought Wang Tianhe and a matchmaker to propose. Mother asked Zhang Xiaoyan to take me to hide behind the curtain at the back of the main hall to take a look. Listening to the matchmaker's sweet talk about how we were a perfect match made in heaven, my heart was filled with joy, and I secretly blushed. By then, I had already been enchanted by the tender trap he had so carefully laid, believing I had found true love, so I gave 3 soft coughs too. Let mother know I was willing to accept the engagement later. When my father came home from work and heard about it, he specifically called Wang Tianhe into the small room in our house and talked with him for a long time. I don't know what he said to my father, but in the end, father actually agreed to the match. Soon after, the two families quickly set a date, prepared a simple dowry, and I became a daughter-in-law of the Wang family. For the next 60 years, I always believed I was the luckiest rural woman in the world. My husband was hardworking. Later, with my help, he passed the college entrance exam and became a government official. We had a son and a daughter. Our family was harmonious, and he never looked for other women outside. Not until I fell seriously ill and was bedridden at the age of 80 did I feel my time was drawing near. Wang Tianhe, now also fully gray-haired, with tears and mucus streaming down his face, knelt by my bedside and kept crying, Yulian, don't leave so fast, wait for me. I forced a smile, trying to raise a hand to wipe away his tears, wanting to tell him that I was dying a natural death from old age, and that he shouldn't grieve too much, but I could no longer speak. In my dying moments, I tried desperately to keep my eyes open to take one last look at the husband who had been by my side for a lifetime, and to let him know that I had lived a very fulfilling life, and that I had no regrets about dying at this moment. But the words never left my lips. The village doctor shook his head, my consciousness slowly faded, and I could only hear the sobbing of my family. Then the crying faded away, and I heard the footsteps of people coming and going. Soon after, I heard Wang Tianhe's aged voice and the resentment he had kept hidden in his heart for a full 60 years. He resented that, using my status as an educated youth, I had forced him to make a promise to stay with me for life, ruining his chance to be with the woman he truly loved. Jiang Qingxue. He resented that my higher education meant the entire Wang family had to defer to me, and that there was not a single person in the family to whom he could speak honestly. My loved one. What I hate most is that I have lived too long, occupying his house for 60 years, enjoying his support and care, while his Jiang Qingxue married a miner who beat her, and after she died, she was casually wrapped in a tattered cloth and thrown into the wilderness, where no one found her for 3 days. Finally, this is over. You really had a tough life, but you still died before me. It's just a pity that my Qingxue won't live to see this day. You took me away from Qingxue. Your father wouldn't allow me to have an affair, but the job and status you gained by marrying me should have belonged to Qingxue. Without you, I could have still gotten into university and become a cadre, but because I married a bookworm like you, I've been looked down upon everywhere, and it cost me Qingxue as well. Lin Yulian, this is all your fault. It would be best if you died. I'll throw your ashes into a latrine pit, so you can go down and make amends to Qingxue. Make amends to Qingxue. After I died, my soul drifted along following Wang Tianhe, watching him put on a false show of weeping bitterly before my spirit tablet. Then, as if nothing had happened, he began to embezzle my passbook and wage booklet. Then he fully revealed his vicious nature. Not only did he refuse to bury my ashes, but he also dug up Jiang Qingxue's remains, which had been hastily buried on a barren mountain back then, and placed them in a newly lacquered red coffin to be buried in a good spot in the village cemetery. He even altered her name in the family genealogy. He issued an ultimatum to my children, saying that after his death he must be buried together with Jiang Qingxue. Only then did I understand why Wang Tianhe had hidden my ashes without a trace. It was precisely to use them as leverage against my 2 children, whom he had brainwashed. Seeing the helpless expression on my children's faces as they were bullied, a towering rage ignited in my heart. Late at night, a strange gust of wind knocked over the kerosene lamp in the kitchen. I watched coldly as Wang Tianhe struggled and screamed in the raging flames, my heart filled with nothing but boundless satisfaction. Just then, a fragmented call suddenly reached my ears. I whipped my head around, and the scene before me rapidly rewound. In a daze, I was no longer in the midst of the fire, but standing behind the cloth curtain on the day the Wang family came to propose marriage at the production team's office. There was no time to think it over. The matchmaker in the office had already rattled on for a while and was now waiting for my mother's response. My hands, hidden under rough cloth sleeves, trembled violently. I viciously pinched my palm to force myself to stay calm. Since I've been given another chance at life, I'll just wait and see how far Wang Tianhe, the village loafer and son of a small team leader, can get without me as his stepping stone. What a disappointment. I stepped out from behind the cloth curtain, straightened my back to strike the pose of an educated youth, and nodded politely to everyone in the room. Then I looked directly at Wang Tianhe, whose face had turned pale, and said coldly, "Comrade Wang, mind your words and actions. We've only run into each other a few times in the fields. We're not close enough for you to address me by my first name. Besides, did I say something wrong? Isn't it true that educated youth Jiang Qingxue carries around the token you gave her, that little stone carved with Tian He eternal flow, and shows it off to everyone? She says you two are deeply in love and that she'll soon move into that brick and tile house to live like a young mistress." I glanced at the back door. Zhang Xiaoyan had already gone out, and I was sure it wouldn't be long before the whole village knew about Wang Tianhe and Jiang Qingxue. The village in my past life. I only learned after death that Wang Tianhe had once fooled Jiang Qingxue by promising to marry her. Later, to get the recruitment quota from me, he abandoned Jiang Qingxue, forcing her to marry a coal miner outside the village. He was clearly the greedy and treacherous one, yet in the end he blamed all his faults on me, causing me to die without even a place to rest. So in this life, I will expose his true face in public and make everyone in the village see who the most despicable person really is. I looked at Li Tsuehua and pretended to be surprised as I said, "It seems Aunt Li hasn't heard about this yet. I've heard from the villagers that Jiang Qingxue is fair-skinned, handsome, slender in figure, and graceful. Lian here congratulates Aunt Li on finding such a good daughter-in-law." Wang Tian had glared at me, his face ashen, and barked his reproach, "Lian, you're an educated youth who's been to school. How can you wag your tongue like a shrew, spouting nonsense in front of the villagers? You obviously with me." Slap. My mother slammed her enamel cup down on the table, cutting off Wang Tian's words. Realizing his slip of the tongue, he quickly shut his mouth, but his reproachful stare still bore into me. I pretended not to see it. Li Tsuehua, as if waking from a dream, hurriedly offered a placating smile and mediated, "What Yulian says is true. I really didn't know the details of this matter." She shot Wang Tianhe a sidelong glare, her face filled with annoyance. This brat probably heard that the educated youth coming from the city were cultured, so he's been trying to latch onto someone above his station. That led us to come calling rashly, disturbing elder sister Chen and sister Yu Lian. "We truly feel sorry." Li Tsuehua spoke apologetic words, but a flicker of secret delight crossed her face. She had originally worried that bringing in a knowledgeable daughter-in-law would take away the family's say in matters. To her surprise, I not only refused outright but also exposed the relationship between Wang Tianhe and another city-educated youth. Now it's perfect. Not only will our family not agree, but probably no other girl in the brigade will take a fancy to her son either. Li Tsuehua's words carried hidden meanings, openly and covertly hinting that this whole matter was Wang Tianhe's own reckless attempt to force a connection. Wang Tianhe's expression turned even uglier. He bowed deeply to my silent mother, then took out a delicate small cloth pouch from his pocket and held it up in front of everyone, saying, "I don't know any Jiang Qingxue at all. My sincere feelings for Miss Lin are proven by this pouch. I beg you, madam, to investigate the matter thoroughly." Investigate? My mother glanced at the pouch, which was clearly made by me, and asked, "You made this?" I nodded, then deliberately put on a bashful yet angry expression and said, "I did make this pouch, but it was clearly traded for a notebook from you during the group study session in the county last month, and now you're using it to deceive everyone, trying to prove your innocence. If I had known you were this kind of person, I would rather have given this pouch to the production team's donkey." After saying that, I had Zhang Xiaoyan take the notebook filled with formulas from the house and throw it on the ground, putting on a perfect show of being deceived and angry. I insisted that I had simply engaged in a straightforward barter at the time, unaware that he had ulterior motives. In the countryside, it was common for commune members to exchange small items with each other, things like handkerchiefs and notebooks. Last month, all the accountants from the commune went to the county for training. I made a small cloth bag that I really liked, but since I had feelings for him, I deliberately made it carelessly to turn in, and privately gave the most exquisite one to Wang Tianhe. At the time, he casually gave me the notebook filled with formulas but without notes, even saying it was specially prepared for me. Now looking back at those crooked scribbles, they are so ugly it's appalling. A complete waste of my sincere feelings. Wang Tianhe was so furious that he cursed me for being full of lies. My mother immediately put down her cup, turned to me, and snapped, "You child, I always tell you to be honest and steady, to work hard and learn things properly, but no, you dare to take and give away anything. One day you'll be cheated by those disreputable people." Then she turned to the Wang family and said, "I'm truly sorry, my daughter studied in town and was spoiled by her father and me. She doesn't even understand basic manners, and has caused young Master Wang to misunderstand for nothing. When her father returns, we will certainly discipline her properly. As for the rest," Li Tsuehua understood the hint perfectly. Ignoring Wang Tianhe's livid expression, she exchanged a few pleasantries and then led her son away. As soon as they stepped out of the production team's office, I picked up the notebook from the ground and chased after them on the village path. I looked at Wang Tianhe's smug face and threw the notebook at him with all my strength, hitting him square in the face. "You dare come to propose with a crummy notebook? Take a good look at yourself in the mirror and see what you're really worth." My voice was loud enough. The passing villagers froze for a moment, then broke into murmurs. My mother forced an awkward smile and apologized, then asked the village doctor to check on Wang Tianhe's face before closing the courtyard gate. Once the door was shut, I threw myself into my mother's arms. In my previous life, when I got married, my mother gave me all the cloth and food ration tickets she had saved, and even took out a sewing machine and a watch from her own dowry. That kind, honest woman, who had lived her whole life in simplicity, sobbed breathlessly in my father's arms. In the next 5 years, I gave Wang Tianhe 3 children. Each time after the birth, my mother made him promise it would be the last, until, during the 3rd delivery, I had a massive hemorrhage and nearly died. When I was barely conscious, my mother used her connections to find an elderly doctor at the county hospital and obtained a contraceptive prescription. She personally watched Wang Tianhe drink the decoction brewed from those herbs. Later, my mother traveled to hospitals in several surrounding counties, searching for folk remedies to heal me. By the time she came to see me, after half a year when I had somewhat recovered, her black hair was already streaked with gray. I only learned about the contraceptive incident after my death in my previous life. When Wang Tianhe spoke to my ashes, he told me that when he and Jiang Qingxue were young, they had agreed to have 6 children, but since Jiang Qingxue died, it fell to me to fulfill that promise. "I never thought your shrew of a mother would dare to drug me. Bearing children is your duty, and you can't even endure a little hardship. What a useless waste, not fit to hold a candle to Qingxue." After father went to work in the city, mother wrote me many letters. I wanted to visit her in the county town many times, but Wang Tianhe always said I was a Wang family daughter-in-law who couldn't leave the farm work and children. By the time my own children grew old enough to help with the chores, mother had already passed away from illness years earlier. The last time I saw mother was just before she was wheeled into the county hospital's operating room. Her frost-white hair and eyes so swollen she could barely open them. She sighed again and again. "Once I'm cured, I'll go see my Lianer. Don't let others bully her." Now, everything was starting anew. Mother's black hair was still free of any silver streaks, and her warm embrace was as reassuring as ever. She held me gently, her rough hand stroking my back, letting my tears soak her collar, and said the exact same words as in my previous life. "You're already in your late 20s, a grown woman, yet you still burrow into your mother's arms like a little child. What will my Lianer do when I'm gone one day?" I wanted to tell her that later. Without mother by her side, her daughter had learned to take care of the whole family, young and old, and had started worrying about her own children. I remembered mother's example and teachings, and grew into a capable rural woman. What I really want to recount is the long road of hardships and trials, watching my own family so far away in the county town while suffering every kind of mistreatment in the Wang family. How I helped my husband secure a job and an urban residency, only to realize on my deathbed that I had been deceived all along. After death, I was left without even a place to rest. Mother, I was fooled my entire life, and in my final moments, I still naively longed for the next life. News of the marriage proposal in the village spread quickly. The whole production brigade knew that the Wang family's illegitimate loafer had tried to court the educated female accountant with nothing but a tattered notebook. He was promptly and fiercely thrown out. Not long after, rumors surfaced that Wang Tianhe and Jiang Qingxue, the educated youth sent down from the city, had long been entangled. He had even given her his family's heirloom stone protective amulet. Now he wanted to pursue the Lin family's daughter as well, truly trying to have his foot in both camps. It seemed he had grown tired of eating bran and salted vegetables and fancied a taste of meat buns. After returning, the Wang family kept their gate tightly shut and didn't even light the kerosene lamp in the yard at night, making the whole house seem deserted. It was unusually quiet. Zhang Xiaoyan, whom I had secretly sent, brought back news that in the dead of night, Wang Tianhe had stolen the brigade supply officer's uniform and crawled out through a hole in the back wall. He went out to find Jiang Qingxue, who swore earnestly that she had never mentioned their relationship to anyone outside, but their affair had already become widely known in vivid detail, and Jiang Qingshui indeed had that small stone engraved with Tianhe flows forever, which she usually kept tied to her waist in a coarse cloth pouch. Previously, no one knew what it was, but now, with my people spreading the word everywhere, soon the entire commune would know what the Wang family's talisman stone looked like. Wang Tianhe flew into a rage and refused to believe Jiang Qingshui's explanation. They went from arguing to shoving, and finally tumbled into a scuffle, while nearby Zhang Xiaoyan, blushing from eavesdropping, listened by the wall for half the night. Early the next morning, just after Zhang Xiaoyan finished reporting to me, the village projectionist delivered a mushy letter Wang Tianhe had written to me. He asked for time to find out who was spreading the rumors, prove his innocence, and then formally proposed to me. After Xiaoyan finished reading the letter, Qing Feng, who had been standing by, couldn't help but snicker. He and Xiaoyan had grown up playing with me in the village as close as siblings, and he always managed to say what I, as an educated youth, was too embarrassed to say outright. Not even a performer from the county theater troupe trying to fool a fool would be this cheesy. This loafer Wang Tianhe has a face thicker than the city wall. I had Xiaoyan burn the letter along with all the trinkets Wang Tianhe had sent before in the stove, then told Qing Feng to arrange for those helping me spread the news to hide out at relatives' homes in the neighboring village for a few days, and not to come back until I said so. During those days, Wang Tianhe couldn't trace the source of the rumors, nor did he dare to openly approach Jiang Qingshui. His anxiety gave him a cold sore on his lip, and dark circles appeared under his eyes. I knew exactly what he was worried about, but without my help in this lifetime, I wondered how far he could really go. Zhong Shanhe, the village party branch secretary's own nephew, had been assigned to work at a supply and marketing cooperative 2 years ago as an outstanding graduate. He was highly valued by his superiors, and not long ago he was even seconded to the county to help with enterprise reform. Wang Tianhe was afraid that Zhong Shanhe would return with accomplishments, making life even harder for him and his mother, who ran a small business in the village. So he schemed relentlessly, hoping to use me, an educated youth, as a stepping stone to leap out of the poverty-stricken rural well. With a face that seemed honest, he spent half a year studying my preferences, then another year building a reputation in the village for being honest and dependable. Minute by minute, he cultivated an image of diligence and ambition, then naturally approached me, catering to my interests, and step by step lured me into his trap. But his scheme fell apart at the last moment when I suddenly disrupted his meticulously laid plans, catching him completely off guard. I heard that Zhong Shanhe's temporary transfer was a great success and that he'll be returning to the village soon. I decided to give him a big gift to help him gain a firm foothold in the village. The educated youth spot in town has been lively lately. Jiang Qingshui is entangled with Wang Tianhe, and now the coal miner old Lu has taken a liking to her and wants to take her home as his wife. Jiang Qingshui doesn't dare refuse him outright, since she relies on old Lu for both her dorm and her daily rations. She can only secretly write letters to Wang Tianhe, begging him to come and save her. At first, Wang Erliuzi didn't even bother to look. He was already busy tracking down rumors and was at his wit's end. It was his mother who came up with the idea. Seize the chance to get that stone amulet back. A few days ago, I had Zhang Xiaoyan arrange an unused storage room across from the house where Jiang Qingshui was staying, all to set the stage for tonight's performance. Watching Wang Tianhe, dressed in the quartermaster's uniform, being hurriedly pulled into the room by Jiang Qingshui, Qing Feng tiptoed to the window and eavesdropped for a quarter of an hour. When he came back, he was grinning from ear to ear. Just as you guessed, that educated youth Jiang did light that scented candle. They hadn't even exchanged a few harsh words before they tumbled onto the Kong bed. They're cozied up whispering sweet nothings right now. Sis, should we make our move? I shook my head. Not yet, the show will be more interesting when they're fooling around with no clothes on. Half an hour later, a cry of fire cut through the quiet night sky, startling the educated youth and villagers nearby. The men rushed out one after another to help put out the blaze. Someone noticed it was Jiang Qingshui's room, and the young men worked even harder to douse the flames. As the fire died down, 2 people suddenly burst out wrapped in soaking wet bedsheets. In an instant, the villagers who had been fighting the fire froze, staring in disbelief at the 2 dripping, barely dressed figures. Then, Jiang Qingshui let out a scream, and the ringing of a bicycle bell came from afar. It was the Wang family, who had discovered their son was missing in the middle of the night. Qing Feng and I hid in the dark, resting my chin on my hand. I said cheerfully. Perfect. All the actors are here, and the stage is set. Now we just wait for the show to begin. My gaze fell on Li Tsuehua, who had just stepped off the bicycle. Upon seeing the two people in a flustered mess on the ground, her first reaction was to pretend to care. She rushed over anxiously to check if her son was hurt, while Wang Tianhe clung desperately to the wet bedsheet to avoid further embarrassment. Wang Jiangwo's face twisted with rage. He stormed forward, raised his calloused hand, and delivered a fierce slap to Wang Tianhe's face. Caught off guard, Wang Tianhe was knocked to the ground. Jiang Qingxue, still clutching the bedsheet, tumbled into the mud with him, making the two of them even more disheveled and humiliated. The surrounding villagers buzzed with gossip. Some local ruffians even craned their necks, trying to sneak a peek under the sheet. Wang Jiangwo's face was full of, unable to stop himself, he pointed at the two of them, stammering you two, for ages before finally managing to utter a few words, then ordered some of the young and middle-aged men in the brigade to put the two of them onto bicycles, while he himself, along with Li Tsuehua, walked at the very back with the village accountant. The Wang family left in a mighty procession. Only after the fire was completely extinguished did Qingfeng ride his bicycle to take me back to the Lin family home. That night, Qingfeng went to dispose of the traces left behind. While making my bed, Zhang Xiaoyan asked, "Elder sister, are you feeling a little better now?" I looked at Xiaoyan's delicate face and recalled my past life. In the 8th year after she accompanied me into the Wang family, I helped her get an introduction letter, wanting her to work at the supply and marketing cooperative as a way to find a good future, but she insisted on staying by my side. For 60 years after I died, she was the first to reveal to my children that Wang Tianhe was not right. She was also the first to learn that Wang Tianhe would not allow me to be buried. He was the only one who insisted on bringing my ashes back to our hometown for burial. But back then, Wang Tianhe, free of my restraint and in control of all I had accumulated during my life, could have Xiaoyan killed with just one phone call. On the way back to the village, her body discarded beside the railway tracks, an unidentified female corpse. As for Qingfeng, my brother had taken a liking to him years ago and arranged for him to join the county transport team. By the time I died, he was already the manager of the county building materials company, and he had settled in town with my brother, rarely returning to the village. Much better, I said softly, gently holding Xiaoyan's hand. With you here, I won't feel sad. Xiaoyan's eyes curved into a smile as she tucked my hand back under the quilt. Xiaoyan will always stay with Sister Yulian. No more crying from now on, okay? Before dawn, news spread throughout the commune that an educated youth from the city and a village loafer had secretly met late at night, and in the heat of passion knocked over a candle, setting the house on fire. The two were dragged out half-naked, and the disgraceful scene was turned into a doggerel that people sang while working in the production team. The brigade party secretary wrote a report overnight and submitted it to the county. Wang Jiangwo was criticized and educated for improper family conduct, fined half a year's work points, and banned from attending brigade meetings for a month. No text to translate. During that time, the Wang family even had to sneak in through the back door to the health station when seeking medical treatment. The front gate remained tightly shut, and they dared not light the kerosene lamp in the yard. No text to translate. In less than a month, the county's enterprise reform work team returned. What they brought back was not only good news but also the urgently needed raw materials and funds for the village-run enterprise. The county, delighted, promptly approved the expansion plan. Zhang Xiaoyan said that Wang Jiangwo's disciplinary action had also ended, and the Wang family's gate was finally opened again. The old couple joyfully welcomed their nephew home. Arriving home before my father were various fine goods allocated from the county supply and marketing cooperative. The gentle breeze leading the way said that my father had pre-ordered all of them on his way back. These were my mother's and my favorite items. When the county leaders asked what reward he wanted, my father, as if reciting a lesson, listed them all out. Soon after, my father rushed home in high spirits. The first words upon pushing open the door were, "Wife, Liener, did you get everything?" Mother chided him for being so unserious, and for being picky about the county's rewards. My father laughed, put his arm around Mother's shoulder, and walked with her toward the main hall. He explained, "This is a rare opportunity, you have no idea. Those small factories' warehouses are full of good things, and our village can use so many of them. Liener, come here. Let me tell you about this trip to the county for the reform meeting." Looking at my father, whom I hadn't seen in decades, I held back my tears and quickly followed him. That evening, my father called me into the small room. On his way back from working in the county, he had already heard from the production team leader about what had happened in the village, so he naturally knew about the disgraceful affair between Wang Tianhe and Jiang Qingxue. He took a letter from his pocket and placed it in front of me. This was given to me by the nephew of Director Zhong from the Supply and Marketing Cooperative. He helped a lot during this trip to the county. In my opinion, he's a decent man who gets things done. I had initially wanted to arrange a meeting between you two before I came back, but after hearing about the troubles caused by his cousin, I began to hesitate. What do you think, Yulian? What's your take on this? I stared at the letter in front of me. The firm handwriting on the envelope read, to Lin Yulian. In my past life, Zhong Shanhe rarely involved himself in family affairs. Because of his work, he was often stationed in the county town, so our paths didn't cross much. Wang Tianhe, with my help back then, had become a cadre. As a direct nephew of the family, Zhong Shanhe seemed naturally at odds with Wang Tianhe. Eventually, he was falsely accused by sycophants trying to curry favor with Wang Tianhe and was demoted to work as a storekeeper in a coal mine in the mountains, where he spent the rest of his life. Li Tsuehua fell ill from the shock and never recovered. Control over household affairs fell entirely into my hands. The Wang family's elders gradually lost their influence, and the real power of the Wang family, it naturally fell into Wang Tianhe's hands. Now that I've been reborn into a new life, without my support, Wang Tianhe no longer has the means to contend with Li Tsuehua's family. In a way, I have paved the way for Zhong Shanhe's future. But as for getting entangled with the Wang family again, I truly have no interest. Sitting beside my father, I propped my cheek with one hand and picked up the letter with the other, shoving it into the stove as I pretended to complain. You know full well what a mess the Wang family is, and you still want me to wade into that muddy water, or are you just tired of having me around the house? My father took the burning letter and dropped it into a metal bucket he had prepared on the side. We watched in silence as the letter turned to ash, and only then did he speak. If you like him, then marry him. Your father has cleared the path for you. My Lianer won't suffer the slightest loss. In that instant, tears nearly sprang to my eyes. In my previous life, before my wedding, my father dug up 2 bottles of sorghum wine from the backyard as my dowry and said the exact same words as now. Daughter, marry in peace. Your father has paved the way for you. My Lianer will not suffer the slightest grievance. Before leaving the room, I asked my father, what if I misjudge him and end up suffering? He took a drag from his cigarette and smiled. Suffering? That's just the last beautiful dream of a dying liar. Half a month later, Wang Tianhe and Jiang Qingxue got engaged. Wang Zhengwo stepped into our house himself to deliver the invitation. He looked much younger than I remembered, a cunning and shrewd glint in his eyes. Miss Lin is avoiding my Tianhe because of that incident. His tone was certain. I was still figuring out how to respond when his next remark nearly made me tear up the invitation. On the spot, if I'd known it would come to this, I should have let him go all out back then. At least then he wouldn't be unable to find a wife now. Article 3 of the village rules, anyone who maliciously injures another person shall be fined 50. I couldn't help but retort, Captain Wang, you're held in high esteem in this village. Don't go encouraging your son to break the law. He stared at me, as if unable to understand why I was responding this way. He's already hurt you badly enough. I thought you'd want him dead. Rather than letting him die comfortably, I'd prefer to watch his clever schemes come to nothing, leaving him to suffer in pain and regret for the rest of his life. Tormented, this left Wang Zhengwo speechless. After a long pause, he nodded mechanically and said, I understand. Then he turned and left. I wasn't sure what exactly he had understood, but not long after, I heard that the engagement between Wang Tianhe and Jiang Qingxue had run into trouble. A village doctor found Jiang Qingxue to be physically weak and suspected she had a history of miscarriage. Later, after some quiet investigation, the Wang family actually found a quack doctor who had prescribed abortion pills for Jiang Qingxue a year earlier. Tianhe said that a year ago he didn't even know Jiang Qingxue, and the child was definitely not his. He said Jiang Qingxue was far from innocent. The first time they slept together, she deliberately chose a time right after her period had just ended. What a scheming woman. No wonder she's still so frail a year later, I muttered casually, then glanced at Wang Zhengwo, who stood behind me with a calm expression. You're quite shameless yourself, talking to me, an unmarried young woman, about what happens in your son's bedroom. Aren't you afraid I'll report you to the brigade office for corrupting public morals? Wang Zhengwo shrugged, looking indifferent. and changed the subject. You're right, watching him suffer is more satisfying than killing him outright. Wang Tianhe had sent me quite a few love letters and gifts. I saved them up for a while and then returned them all at once. Wang Jiangwo somehow got wind of this and snatched the task from my younger brother, finding a box and parading it through the streets on his shoulder. When someone asked, he would say loudly, "That worthless son of mine keeps pestering Accountant Lin, annoying her so much she can't take it anymore. I'm hauling all this stuff back to deal with it myself." The next day, when my father came home from work, he told me that the brigade secretary had spoken to Wang Jiangwo again, saying that Wang Tianhe had misconducted himself, engaged to be married yet still harassing other girls. Captain Wang was so scolded that he couldn't hold his head up and stormed off in a rage. I suppose he went home to give Wang Tianhe a beating. Sure enough, as expected, the Wang family stayed behind closed doors for a few more days, and then came the news that Wang Tianhe's wedding date had been moved up. It was brought forward all the way from next spring to after the autumn harvest this year. True to form, Wang Tianhe had someone deliver a letter to me before the autumn harvest, saying, "Once I go to the county town to take the recruitment exam, if I pass, Yulian, can we start over?" I didn't even read it. I simply took Zhang Xiaoyan to the county town garment factory for an internship, telling people it was to learn advanced production techniques. As for what others thought, that was none of my business. I stayed there until the day before the recruitment exam, then returned to the village. The village party branch secretary told my father that the county had issued new quotas, and my brother was already on the recommended list. The good news will be announced together with the recruitment list tomorrow. Yu Lian can go and watch the excitement. I obediently agreed, and when I exchanged a look with my father, both of us had the words waiting for the drama written all over our faces. The next day, when the list was announced, I took Zhang Xiaoyan to the brigade office to watch the fun. As soon as we arrived, we heard someone shouting loudly, "Wang Tianhe has been admitted to the county textile factory." The villagers buzzed with discussion, crowding around Wang Tianhe and Jiang Qingxue to offer their congratulations. Wang Tianhe's reputation in the village had been tarnished for so long, but today he finally held his head high. Jiang Qingxue, however, showed none of the joy of someone about to become a worker's wife. She merely forced a smile while clutching her handkerchief, her eyes darting nervously around as if looking for something. When I approached, the two of them noticed me at the same time. Wang Tianhe's face was radiant with undisguised joy. The person beside him also noticed me and naturally stepped aside to make way for me. Wang Tianhe took a step toward me, then seemed to think better of it, ultimately staying where he was, as if waiting for me to come forward and offer my congratulations. I heard Zhang Xiaoyan beside me give a cold laugh. Qing Zimo had already squeezed his way to the bulletin board. Just as I was about to walk over, Jiang Qingxue beat me to it, rushing straight in front of me and dropping to her knees. "Accountant Lin, please have a heart, leave me a way to live." Everyone present was stunned by her kneeling, forgetting even to help her up. "Accountant Lin, you're an educated youth, a lady from the city, but I'm also a proper girl from a decent family. Everyone in the village knows about Tianhe and me. Why must you force your way between us?" The crowd around her grew larger, with people murmuring among themselves. Wang Tianhe stepped forward quickly, trying to pull Jiang Qingxue up while scolding her. "What madness is this now? Shameless, get back home right now." Jiang Qingxue was as slippery as a loach, seeming weak and delicate, yet impossible to drag away. "You say I'm here today to compete with you over Wang Tianhe. Where's your proof?" I looked at Jiang Qingxue's tear-streaked face. "No, though you know the answer full well." I watched as Jiang Qingxue frantically pulled a piece of paper from her bosom and raised it high, shouting, "I have a letter here from Tianhe to you, written in black and white saying he wants to start over with you. Accountant Lin, how dare you claim you didn't come here today with that very intention?" "Of course I dare." I tilted my chin up slightly, my smile radiant. "You said it yourself, the letter was from Wang Tianhe to me. I didn't write a single word back, and had it returned to the Wang family unopened. I never expected you to intercept it and then turn around and slander me." "Miss Jiang, you keep demanding that I give you a way out, but this is our first meeting, and your Tianhe is completely unrelated to me. If we have no ties, how can there be any talk of a way out?" Wang Tianhe looked at me in disbelief, and Jiang Qingxue was also stunned by my words. It was a long while before she stammered, "You make it sound so lofty and respectable, but here you are, aren't you?" I shot a look at Qin Zimo, who was waiting in the distance. He immediately understood and called out loudly, "Accountant Lin, good news, new county quotas. Your brother is going to report to the county seat in a few days. Most people in the village had heard about Lin Yuelian trying to get her brother to go study in the county seat, and they all thought I had come specifically to confirm the news after hearing about it, not, as Jiang Qingxue claimed, to fight over a romantic rivalry. For a moment, the way everyone looked at Wang Tianhe and Jiang Qingxue grew strange. I turned my gaze back to the two of them, their expressions a vivid mix of emotions, and said unhurriedly, Wang Tianhe is already betrothed, you'd both better watch your mouths and hands. If word of this gets to the brigade office, it's the two elders of the Wang family who will suffer. Miss Jiang may come from a modest family, but she is still a respectable young woman. Since you have already taken her innocence, you naturally must take full responsibility. Only then will you live up to all those years you spent studying. I deliberately stressed the word innocence, and the expressions in the room shifted, some sneered, some mocked. Watching it land on their faces, it was deeply satisfying. Wang Tianhe, who had just been basking in the glory of landing a job, was humiliated once again. He shoved Jiang Qingxue away fiercely, pointed at me, and stammered, you. After stammering for a long time without being able to say a word, he could only storm off with a flick of his sleeve. Jiang Qingxue quickly scrambled to her feet and chased after him. When she caught up to the bicycle, she was kicked down again and could only run after him in a sorry state. I accepted everyone's compliments on the spot and then went home. Just as I reached the door, my younger brother reported that Wang Jiangwo was waiting in the yard. For me, Wang Jiangwo had apparently come straight from working in the fields, still wearing his mud-stained work clothes. The first thing he said when he saw me was, I really thought you were going to start over with him. There was even a hint of aggrieved reproach in his tone, which left me baffled. I neither understood why he thought I would forgive Wang Tianhe, nor why he felt so wronged, unwilling to be blamed for no reason. I directly voiced my confusion. Wang Jiangwo was taken aback when he heard this. I thought you already knew. I'm different from Tianhe, he murmured. I nodded and said bluntly, Captain Wang is indeed different from Wang Tianhe, whether in terms of family status or conduct. Captain Wang is far better than him. Given time, he will surely rise to a higher level in the commune. The reason you're interested in me is, first, because my status as an educated youth can help you gain advantages in the production team, and second, because I share your dislike for Wang Tianhe. But that doesn't mean I like you. Besides, from what I know, Captain Wang already has 2 girlfriends from other villages, and under Aunt Lee's arrangements, he's already met several other girls for potential matches. I'm not your only option, am I? Wang Jiangwo was left speechless. After a moment, he finally replied, as long as you agree, I'll have his mother turn down all the other matchmaking offers, and those girlfriends will be cut off immediately. They won't get in your way. I shook my head, looked up at him, and said, I don't force anyone to swear that they'll be with me and only me for life. After all, most vows are just empty words that never come from the heart. I'm telling you all this just to make it clear that I would never be interested in a man like you, and you don't really have any true feelings for me either. I feel that. I'm just the most eligible girl in the village, but even without me, it wouldn't stop you from marrying someone else or messing around with other women. You just need someone who can help you. I'm the best choice, but if not me, someone else will do. I put it bluntly like that. Wang Jiangwo couldn't argue his way out, so he hurriedly took his leave. I told my family not to let just anyone in anymore. Now that I have a job at the factory, I have to be even more careful and cautious in dealing with people. Wang Tianhe was soon forced to marry Jiang Qingxue, because she had been staying at the Wangs helping with the chores. As for the so-called wedding procession, it was only a few steps from the kitchen to the main house. There was no bride price or dowry, and only a handful of guests attended. The wedding was hasty and shabby. Even the red paper double happiness characters pasted at the gate had barely been up for half a day before the wind blew them away. Shortly after, word spread that Jiang Qingxue was in poor health and could not conceive, so 2 more barefoot village girls were brought into the Wang family's back courtyard. And Wang Tianhe's small house became chaotic all day long. Wang Tianhe had to prepare for work in the county town while also dealing with the jealousy and squabbling among the women in his household. He became visibly haggard and worn out. Wang Jiangwo came looking for me a few more times, but my father politely declined each time. Gradually, he stopped coming, and soon after, he arranged his own engagement. It was settled. The girl was the daughter of a township government official, and the wedding was set for the following spring. Wang Jiangwo delivered the invitation himself, speaking politely and sincerely. I was out of my mind before, only thinking of myself, and I offended Accountant Lin. I truly deserve to be criticized. I accepted the invitation, which drew a line under the previous troubles. Before the Lunar New Year, my older brother, Lin Shuguang, returned from the county seat. Just as in the previous life, this transfer of my brother's brought the village 5 years of good times ahead. The county leaders thought highly of him, and there was no shortage of opportunities for promotion and important posts in the previous life. To help Wang Tianhe get better job opportunities and to keep me from being mistreated in my husband's family, my brother turned down the transfer even though he went to town, but took the village's able-bodied young men to the most grueling quarry, inevitably leaving himself riddled with ailments. Now that those worries were gone, my brother resigned from his job with peace of mind, took on a new role as the village committee director, and stayed in the village to reunite the family. My life finally settled into calm. Those past entanglements with the Wang family were like a nightmare. When I woke, I was still Lin Yuelian in my early 20s, no longer haunted. In the early spring of the following year, my brother was at a commune meeting. When he returned, he couldn't wait to tell me that something major had happened. During job assignments, Wang Tianhe had probably been worn down by the shrewish women in his household. Listless, unsteady on his feet, he managed to get through the physical exam and interview well enough, but when it came to the skills test, he often started losing focus midway, or his hands would fumble. Messing up his tasks was in such disarray that it darkened the examiner's face during the exam. A county leader had a sudden whim to test this Wang kid in person. As a result, Wang Tianhe not only stuttered but also, even with simple calculation problems, he would suddenly forget halfway through, and because of his nerves, he broke out in a cold sweat during the cool spring weather. After standing before the county leader for over an hour, he looked as if he had just been pulled out of a river. This so infuriated the county leader that he slammed the table, making Wang the only candidate in village history to pass the preliminary selection yet still be eliminated. When he was escorted out, his weak and unsteady steps caused him to trip over the office threshold. He immediately fainted, and upon waking up, he had gone utterly mad. He insisted that he had passed the state enterprise exam, that his wife was a girl from the Lin family, and that he would one day become a workshop director. Upon hearing this, a sense of foreboding arose in my heart. Sure enough, just a few days later, Wang Tianhe rushed to my front door in a frantic state, demanding to see me. This isn't right, Yuelian, come out. Tell them, you're my wife. I'm the newly appointed technician. Hiding in the inner room, I listened as Zhang Xiaoyan described the scene, and confirmed that Wang Tianhe had also been reborn. Only the timing of his rebirth was terrible for him. He had already been blacklisted for his erratic behavior during the exam and would never be allowed into the factory in this life. I didn't appear before Wang Tianhe until his family hurried over. He looked at me and then burst into loud wails. Yuelian, it's all wrong. Everything is wrong. I did not respond. Wang Tianhe's mother, Li Tsuehua, pulled Jiang Qingxue along to bow and scrape apologetically in front of me, yet I simply remained silent, watching the Wang family drag him onto the ox cart. Only when the ox cart was securely tied with ropes did I look at them and say meaningfully, the commune inspectors came today with quite a few leaders. If I hadn't been held up for a while, the two of you would right now be going to pick up your people from the commune police. Since he's sick, he should rest well at home. Earning money to support the family still depends on the two elders in the team. Li Tsuehua hurriedly agreed. Not long after, word spread that Wang Tianhe had fallen ill at midnight, tumbled into the village well, and broken his leg. He would be severely lame for life and unable to do heavy work ever again. Story 2. The little puppy I've been supporting at a high cost for 3 years has been finding all sorts of excuses to quarrel with me. Frequently recently. This time, he disappeared for 5 days following the credit card consumption records. I came to a bar, then I heard him chatting with someone. Gary, the plane to pick you up has been here for 2 months, and you're still hiding and not leaving. Don't tell me you've really fallen for that old woman. Gary still looked gentle as ever. What nonsense are you talking about? I'm afraid she'll chase me back to B City. I have to wear her down first so she'll give up and break up with me on her own initiative. I sighed. What a pity. It seems I can't use him to get resources anymore. Outside the private room, just as I was hesitating whether to pretend I didn't hear and get one last profit, or burst in and break up with him once and for all, a waiter walked up behind me. Excuse me, ma'am, is there anything I can help you with? Suddenly, the door of the private box opened. I met Gary's face, which showed a flash of panic. I scanned him from head to toe. A suit, a watch, and shoes. I bought them all. not one less. It was still the outfit he wore when he ran away from home 5 days ago, not a single scratch on his body, so I was completely relieved. I took a step forward, forced out some tears, and got into character in a second. Gary, what are you talking about? What be city? What break up? Gary's face looked extremely ugly, but the person beside him spoke up for him. Our Gary's real identity is the eldest young master of the Jacksons family in B City, with a net worth of tens of billions. If you know what's good for you, let go of him quickly. I pinched my palm again, looking at him with tear-filled eyes. Gary, is what he said true? As long as you say it's false, I'll believe you if you say so. Gary closed his eyes, his long and slender eyelashes fluttering non-stop, casting a shadow. He walked up to me. His 188-centimeter height was quite oppressive. Gary's fingers were well defined. He touched my tears and then gently stroked my hair. I originally wanted to tell you myself. Why did you have to overhear it, sister? I slapped his hand away as if I couldn't accept it, covered my face, and turned to run. I rushed all the way to the underground parking lot, drove home, packed all of Gary's things, and then did a thorough cleaning. Whoosh dash, lying in the bathtub, drinking red wine, and looking at the night view, I thought dash, it's finally over. Actually, I knew Gary's identity from the first time we met. For a businessperson like me with a bit of ambition, not to mention the top 500 global companies, I can recite the names and photos of the big shots and their families in the top 50 domestic companies. When Gary sat next to me, I just thought the young master had come down to experience life. I really didn't expect he was selling himself. Sister, don't look at those cheapskates, look at me. Gary winked at me, his peach blossom eyes shining brightly under the lights. It scared me so much that cold sweat broke out on my forehead. I can't afford to mess with him, really can't. I glanced at the bulge of his chest under the laser-printed shirt and moved my eyes away with great difficulty. I don't keep anyone. Gary put his arm around my shoulder, drew a circle on my chest like a feather brushing across, and his breath was alluring. Sister, how can you be so sure without trying? I tried. The eldest young master of the Jacksons family. It is said that even after his mother cut off countless love affairs, there are still countless people vying to sleep with him. It really lives up to its reputation. He was really useful. Even when his mother suddenly came to H City and threw a check in my face, I still felt I had made a profit. While Gary was taking a bath, I thought for a long time whether to expose Gary's act of selling himself or pretend not to know. In the end, I decided to slip away. Exposing it would be embarrassing, and not exposing it would mean I had to pay. I chose to be a heartbreaker. Unexpectedly, that afternoon, Gary came to my company. According to my secretary, a gigolo was spreading rumors at the company reception that I had had free sex with him and didn't pay. I went downstairs to take a look. Gary's eyes were alluring and charming, making my ears turn red. Oh, you put your pants on, sis, under the peony flower. There is no free lunch. Gary is too expensive. I didn't dare to make a move. It cost me a lot of money and went through several rounds of inquiries to find out that the eldest young master of the Jacksons family had angered his mother and had his financial resources cut off, so he fled B City. Looking at the man who had occupied my Nintendo and was absorbedly playing porn games on the carpet, I suddenly realized, so I was the long-term meal ticket chosen by Gary. So I pretended not to know Gary's true identity and stayed with him for 3 years. I watched myself sink deeper and deeper. Clearly aware of it, I was secretly happy on one hand, and on the other hand, I was constantly worried about when the sword of Damocles hanging over my head would fall. I knew that there would come a day when his identity would be restored, and I also knew that if his identity was restored, he would definitely not be with me. I held this candy without knowing its expiration date, loving each day as if it were the last. I gave everything I had, fulfilling his every request. But Gary is really hard to support. He demands the top notch in everything from food, clothing, to daily use. Even though my company has been growing bigger over these 3 years, I myself am on the verge of bankruptcy. So this is the whole story of why you kept a boyfriend who only knew how to buy things and spend all your savings on him. You were really out of your mind because of love. My friend Laura was sitting with me in the bar, clinking our glasses. I didn't answer her, just took a sip of my drink. What else could I say? What kind of person is Gary? Big-chested, narrow-waisted, long-legged, and his face is so captivating that it could bring disaster to the country. When he sincerely says sweet words, he can charm anyone from 8 to 80 years old. I'm not a bodhisattva. 10-point flattery, 11-point sincerity, but none of this matters. I downed the cocktail in one gulp under the astonished gazes of everyone. What's the name of this drink? Bring me 10 more cups. On the way home, I sang loudly against the wind. I didn't know what song it was when Laura helped me. Upstairs, I was so drunk that I was dazed. I only saw something squatting in front of my door. And there was a little bit of light flickering. I reached out to the fluffy hair. What a big dog. Come here, come here. Gary crushed the cigarette butt, took me from Laura's hands, his voice hoarse, and it was hard to tell whether he was angry or not. Elizabeth, you changed the password. What's the new one? Leaning on Gary, I smelled the mixed scent of perfume and cigarettes on him and pinched his pectoral muscle. Gary, give me back my hard-earned money. Gary didn't react. Huh, how could he be so stupid? I took advantage and pinched his chest, the numbers corresponding to the initials of Gary. Give me back my hard-earned money on the 9-key keyboard. Gary opened the door with a dark face. Before he could turn on the light, he almost tripped over several big boxes at the door. His tone was rarely embarrassed. You even set a trap at the door. I tried to think hard and then suddenly realized, those are your things. You can take them away directly. Gary didn't say anything. He stepped over the boxes with his long legs and helped me sit on the sofa. Elizabeth, sister, he looked down at me from above, his waist bending little by little, the tip of his nose against mine, and his eyes becoming more and more complex. I tilted my head. Huh, Gary's voice was so low that it was almost inaudible. I'm sorry. I was speechless. Oh, I thought he was going to say something really meaningful. Sorry in a relationship means nothing since you chose to use me. Why show true feelings? It's the same for you as it is for me. I let myself get drunk and pass out. I didn't sleep well that night. In my dreams, I always felt that someone was staring at me. When I opened my eyes, it was already bright. Sure enough, Gary was staring straight at me. Good morning. I was a bit at a loss for words. Sir, you haven't left yet. It's kind of scary in the early morning. Gary didn't answer. He got up slowly and changed his clothes in front of me without any hesitation. I was too lazy to turn my head. There's no harm in taking a free look. You know what? Slurp. It's really big, pink. Gary bent down and kissed my forehead, as if he had made up his mind. He regained his usual suave manner. Sister, I've thought about it. We don't have to break up. I stared at him blankly. I couldn't quite understand. What are you talking about? Gary stood up, with his back to the light. I couldn't see his expression clearly. Although your status can't make you my wife, you can be my mistress. In the future, I'll find a suitable woman for a business marriage. Besides the status of a wife, I can give you resources, money, and myself. Aren't you happy? Happy. Gary is much more generous than I thought. After the eldest young master of the Jacksons family, who had been in a relationship with me for 3 years, restored his identity, instead of breaking up with me, he actually wants to keep me at a high cost. How can this not be considered touching? I'm so grateful that I have no way to repay him. I stretched out my foot to kick Gary's crotch, but he grabbed my ankle. I couldn't break free and got angry. Get out. Gary wasn't in a hurry either. He put down my leg, and while tying his tie, he walked out of the door unhurriedly. Before leaving, he even gave me a wink. Sister, think it over carefully. In the living room, the things I had packed were all back in their original places, as if nothing had happened. Only the holes on the wall where the photos had been removed were barely visible. I sat on the sofa and covered my eyes. Love is really a harmful thing. 3 years ago, if it had been any other heir to a wealthy family, I would have run far away as soon as his hand touched my shoulder, not getting involved in any trouble. Just now, if it had been any other heir to a wealthy family, I would have obsequiously asked, are there any other colleagues? What are their preferences and taboos? I'll prepare some gifts to meet your sisters. My rationality has always told me what to do to maximize my interests. All I need to do is lower my head. But he is Gary, so my emotions are desperately arguing that we can both lose. But I can never accept the condescending favor of my lover since I've sunk deeper and deeper into this pit. Now I can only cut my losses in time. No matter how much I'm involved in a relationship dispute, I still have to go to work. I came to the company and had just sat down when I saw Gary's face again. Good morning, boss. He acted as if nothing had happened, greeting me with a smile. Oh, I forgot this scoundrel still holds the position of my assistant. Gary, you're fired. Standing in front of the floor-to-ceiling window, I felt refreshed. This scoundrel Gary doesn't know the labor law and doesn't even know to ask the finance department for compensation. I repacked Gary's things, searched for the address of the Jacksons family's company, and sent them all at once. I also thoughtfully sent Gary's shared location, and then I blocked all his accounts. I don't care about this piece of broth anymore. A month later, the news of Gary's engagement spread all over the internet. My company is facing a cash flow shortage and is on the verge of bankruptcy. This is also my fault. Back then, in order to prevent me from fooling around, he insisted on being my assistant and accompanying me to business dinners, but everyone in the business world is a shrewd person. I'm not the only one who knows Gary's face. Gary's mother only said that no one was allowed to help Gary, but she didn't say that no one was allowed to help Gary's girlfriend. Over time, I got a lot of big orders that I couldn't reach before, but now, the uglier our fight is, the heavier the backlash. He's more ruthless than me. I just secretly used his face to get some small benefits, but he threatened that anyone who cooperates with me won't be able to enter the gates of the Jacksons family. I know he wants me to go to B City and beg him obediently. He underestimated me. Am I such a spineless person? At 3 a.m., I was lying in bed, counting the crystals on the crystal lamp on the ceiling 2,372 times. Then I drank a whole bottle of red wine to boost my courage. Finally, I dialed Gary's phone number. It rang for 45 seconds and then was hung up. No one answered. I called again. No one answered. I called again. Still no one answered. Damn it. I was so angry that I threw the pillow out and turned off my phone. Gary, just wait for a lose-lose situation. The next day, when I woke up from a hangover, my head hurt terribly. As soon as I turned on my phone, a call came in. It was an unknown number. When I answered, Gary's voice was rather resentful. Sister, you're so petty. I just didn't answer your 3 calls, and you didn't answer my 300. The young master of the Jacksons family in B City really has a lot of influence. The Maybach sent to pick me up formed a motorcade. Elizabeth, now it's my turn to support you. Gary kissed my forehead at the door of the villa where he planned to keep me. The affection in his eyes was softer than the continuous white clouds in the sky. On the day we met, he introduced me to all his brothers at the club. Hello, sister-in-law. His brothers were laughing and joking, almost each of them with a girl in their arms, as if they really gave me a proper status. How could that be possible? I looked at the innocent-looking girl in a sailor suit who was pouring wine for someone on my left, and then at the hot-tempered girl who was flirting with 2 people at the same time on my right. I didn't say anything. Gary obviously realized something too. His expression was flustered, and his forehead touched mine. Sister, you're different from them. I lifted Gary's chin and kissed him, thinking about that stack of contracts. I very much agreed. Indeed, I'm much more expensive than them. Upon hearing this, Gary's expression changed. I saw his fingers holding the wine glass turn white from the tight grip. Elizabeth, do you really have to talk to me like this? After saying this, his tone instantly turned pitiful, and he half coquettishly put his arm around my waist. Sister, you know very well that I'm sincere to you. I let him hold me, stroked his hair, and took a sip of wine from his hand. Of course I know you're sincere to me. You're sincere in bed, sincere when you were spending my money in desperate times, and even now when you're holding me, you just don't want to marry me. Gary's face turned ashen. He took the wine glass from my hand and smashed it on the ground. The crisp sound of the glass shattering was particularly noticeable even in the noisy club. Everyone in the private box looked at us, perhaps because they had never seen Gary get so angry. All sounds quieted down for a moment. Even the sound of breathing was clearly audible. What are you looking at? Gary looked around, and everyone quickly avoided his gaze. Then he turned to look at me. The flames in his eyes seemed about to burst out. Elizabeth, is that marriage certificate really that important? Yes, it is. I was completely indifferent to his emotions. I just looked at him quietly. If it weren't important, why can you give me everything except this? Gary, if you just want to have a fling, why deceive me by saying it's true love? Gary is so good looking, no matter what expression he has, but looking at his face, I felt nothing but sorrow in my heart. If he had said we were breaking up, then there might still be a bit of true feelings for me in his heart, but instead, he, regardless of his status, resorted to any means to keep me as his mistress. What was this? This was deep affection, so much so that he couldn't wait to play with me every day and treasure me like a precious collection. I would be the apple of Gary's eye, the mole between his brows, but I would never be someone who stands on the same ground as him. Gary was obviously furious. He had grown up with a silver spoon in his mouth and had always had a smooth life, except for his parents. No one had ever made him lose face like this, perhaps because of the alcohol. Ugly words poured out of his mouth without restraint. A fling? Am I not sincere? Then are you, Elizabeth, really in love with me? You think I don't know that you initially wanted to use my identity? You've made a lot of money in the past 2 years by using my name. Which woman in this club isn't more obedient than you? I listened to Gary's words and didn't refute a single one. He had finally spoken his mind. Maybe it was because my expression was too calm, or maybe the alcohol was wearing off. Although Gary was scolding me, he almost started crying as he spoke. Sister, isn't it good for us to muddle along like this? No, it isn't, Gary. Elizabeth, can live without love, but I can't be looked down upon. Gary sat decadently at the wine table, his long legs awkwardly propped up, his head lowered as he spoke in a muffled voice. Sister, have a child for me. This is the biggest promise I can give you. You can never be my wife, but you can be the mother of my child. I wiped away the tear hanging from the tip of Gary's nose. I couldn't help but laugh at how stupidly cute he was. He himself wasn't even grown up yet, but he was talking to me about having a child. What about your wife? How will she feel if I have a child? My answer seemed to give him hope. His speech became rapid, and his eyes stared straight at me. I won't love her, and I won't let her disturb you. I'll make a will to ensure you have no worries for the rest of your life, getting a satisfactory answer. I smiled. I looked past Gary towards the door of the private box behind him. There stood Gary's mother and his fiancée, Miss Nicole. Auntie, Miss Nicole, did you hear that? If I stay, I will definitely be a threat to your arranged marriage. I know my place and have no intention of going against you. As long as you can help me get away from Gary, I will never set foot in B City to get in your way for the rest of my life. Gary turned his head as if struck by lightning. Mom, the bodyguards brought by Gary's mother entered the room first and controlled Gary. I respectfully invited Gary's mother and Miss Nicole to the seats in the booth. Gary's mother, I don't ask for the benefits of the Jacksons family, and I'm willing to stay away. I just ask you to give me a way out. Gary's mother looked at me with a faint smile. You're quite smart. Gary kept struggling but couldn't get close. Mom, don't agree to her. Don't let her go. Gary's mother glanced at Gary. Elizabeth, you're a very sensible person. If you were born into a family like ours, I would like you very much, and maybe we could be a very close mother-in-law and daughter-in-law. I slightly lowered my head, my eyelashes drooping, with a hint of regret. Unfortunately, I'm not. Gary's mother was gentle and noble. She took out a check. Our Jackson's family isn't an extremely evil family. It's Gary who owes you. I should give you some compensation no matter what. When Gary saw what his mother was doing, his eyes widened in anger, veins almost popping out on his neck as he roared, Mom, don't force me to hate you. Gary's mother gave Gary another glare and then tore up the check with her hand. My heart sank, and I had a vague sense of foreboding. Then I heard Gary's mother speak again. This was what I originally thought. Gary's mother looked up at me with a strange look. I didn't expect Gary to like you so much now. So I won't do anything to you. I stiffened a bit, looking at her. Auntie, aren't you afraid that my presence will affect the marriage? Gary's mother smiled slightly. If I deal with you now, with Gary's personality, he will definitely resist with all his might. It's better to let him have his way for now. When he gets tired of you, I'll come back to deal with you. Don't worry, the reward you'll get then will be no less than what you could get now. I forced a smile. Auntie, are you so sure that he'll get tired of me? As you can see, he likes me very much. Gary's mother turned to look at me, raising an eyebrow. I've investigated you. You should know better than any of us how long the shelf life of love is. Besides, if you're really smart, you should know your place. Gary had already been let go, and he regained his well-dressed appearance. I turned to look at Miss Nicole beside me. This was my last hope. Miss Nicole, what about you? You surely don't want your husband to have other mistresses, do you? Miss Nicole stood up with her handbag. As cold as water. It's just a business marriage. If it weren't you, it would be someone else. However, you'd better be careful not to get pregnant. As Gary's mother and Miss Nicole left one after another, Gary hugged me. He looked smug. Sister, I love you. I closed my eyes, feeling the slightly hot temperature behind me. It seemed there was only one last way. Harvey, let's talk. The time and place to meet Harvey were arranged by his secretary. Entering the private box, I glanced at the dishes. Half of them were my favorites, and the other half were his, clearly distinct. You still owe me one thing, do you remember? Harvey wiped his hands with a hot towel. You want me to help you get rid of Gary? No, I want you to acquire my company. I took out a slightly old-fashioned paper jewelry box from my bag, inside which was a wooden, carved ring. I rotated the tray and turned it in front of him. Acquire my company at the market price, and we'll be even. My story with Harvey is quite simple. That year, I was admitted to one of the top universities in the country. I was full of ambition, With a promising future ahead, I happened to meet Harvey, a senior from the same school. We were well matched, like a talented man and a beautiful woman, and we got along naturally. We confirmed our relationship in less than a month. Everyone on campus envied our love. It was perfect without any flaws, but that was only on campus. Society is a comprehensive testing ground, and love accounts for less than 1/10 of it. At that time, I was still young, holding high the banner of equality for all, walking with my head held high. Almost naively, I didn't know much about how good Harvey's family background was, nor did I care to know whether it was fortunate or unfortunate. Harvey was also naive enough at that time. The poor Cinderella and the noble prince fought against their families, ignored the world, and chose to elope. We believed that love could conquer all. With only 72 yuan, we came from the glamorous B city to H city, which has distinct four seasons. A paper, folded jewelry box and a wooden, carved ring picked up casually formed our inexpensive vows of eternal love. Fairy tales don't tell what happens after marriage. No one deliberately mentions how many trivialities of daily life there are after happily ever after. We couldn't even hold on for a year under the pressure from Harvey's family. It was a very peaceful morning. Harvey didn't wear the affordable undershirt we bought at the hypermarket after coming to H City. He put on the expensive suit he wore when he eloped with me. Elizabeth, I'm going back. Okay. Our voices overlapped across time and space. I've never doubted love, but I don't believe in eternity. It's a pity, after so many years of hard work, I still have to look up at that invisible gap, and my new lover is also unfaithful. When Gary arrived, I was the only one in the private box, leisurely packing the leftovers. He was out of breath from running, and his hair was in a mess. Here, this is what you like. I've packed it all, Elizabeth, Gary shouted at me, always youthful, always as if he had eaten gunpowder. I checked the time, judging from the distance from the Jacksons' family to here. He found out I got rid of his surveillance in less than an hour. I was a bit speechless. Are you here to catch me having an affair? Gary gritted his teeth, walked over, raised his hand high, and the watch on his wrist kept flashing red. He picked up a plate and helped me pack. Who on earth did you meet? I picked up a piece of meat and held it in my mouth, speaking vaguely. My first love, my ex-boyfriend. Clatter, the plate in Gary's hand shattered on the ground. Gary has been sulking for over 10 hours. All the food we packed was thrown by him to feed the dogs. What a pity. I really liked it. After drying my hair, I was about to go to the bedroom to sleep. Gary followed me like a wandering soul. Seeing that I really didn't seem to plan to talk to him, he stood by my bedside, his tone resentful. Sister, you really don't even try to comfort me. The 188-centimeter tall figure just stood there, with more resentment than a ghost. Even with my eyes closed, his presence was so strong I was really sleepy. It seemed that I couldn't sleep today if I didn't comfort him. I pushed the eye mask up to my forehead. We were in public, above board. We didn't even eat from the same plate. Gary shouted loudly, then what did you go to see him for? And you got rid of my people. I pinched the bridge of my nose. To sell my company. Gary was stunned, then he reacted and quickly got into the bed, rubbing his furry head against my neck. His tone was full of pleasantly surprised. You sold your company. You're not going back to H City. Yes, did he? Gary, really think he would let me go back? Seeing that I acquiesced, Gary became even more excited, his tone getting sweeter. From now on, I'll support sister. Actually, sister could also give the company to the Jacksons family. You don't have to worry about investments. Sister can just be a director and get paid. It's a pity that Harvey got a bargain. That's sister's hard work. Of course, I couldn't give it to the Jacksons family. I turned my back to Gary, expressionless. It hasn't been many years since I started from scratch. Currently, my company has dozens of employees, and 80% of them are veterans who started with me from the very beginning. They're all in their prime and rely on this job to support their families. If the plan fails and the company goes bankrupt, I can start over, but my company and employees will surely be retaliated against. It's better to sell it to a wealthy family that can rival the Jacksons family. I'm just a small fry that can be easily stepped on. But Harvey's family, even the Jacksons family, has to think twice before provoking. And my past with Harvey, although not enough for him to protect me from Gary, can make him offer me a fair price under the pressure of the Jacksons family. It can also give me a promise that my employees won't lose their jobs. That's enough. Everything was simpler than I thought. First, I applied to a foreign university. I got my visa and bought my plane ticket. At the airport entrance, seeing Gary leading people rushing into the airport in a hurry, I made a detour and went to a hidden farmyard in the countryside of B City that I had rented in advance. When I opened the door, someone was already waiting for me. It was Gary's mother. She was still as Noble as when I first saw her, Elizabeth. You've chosen a good place, but it can deceive Gary, not me. I put my hand in my pocket. So, Auntie, are you going to hand me over to Gary? Gary's mother's eyes became more and more pitying, as if she was looking at a delicate flower or plant. Why would I send you back when you've worked so hard to escape? The gate of the farmyard was suddenly closed by the bodyguards. The people brought by Gary's mother surrounded me. I clenched my fists, and my palms were soaked with sweat. The heart rate monitor on my smartwatch was jumping faster and faster, emitting a piercing alarm sound. I took out the small knife from my pocket and turned to run towards the door, but I was quickly caught and pushed to the ground, and the small knife in my hand was taken away. Gary's mother squatted down, pinched my chin, and slapped me. Blame yourself for seducing my son. My heart rate was getting faster and faster, and the alarm sound was getting louder and louder. Auntie, aren't you afraid Gary will find out? Gary's mother played with the knife, still looking gentle. How could he find out? Weren't you the one trying to escape? The alarm sound reached its peak. I looked at Gary's mother and suddenly laughed. Why would Auntie think I'm trying to escape? The Jacksons family has great power and influence. I like it very much. I used Gary's mother's hand to stab the knife into my lower abdomen. Blood splattered on Gary's mother's face, shattering the calm on her face. I looked at Gary, who burst through the door with a look of panic and fragility. Gary, I'm pregnant. Save our child. No. In my blurred vision, I saw Gary desperately holding me and breaking through the encirclement of his mother. Through the chaos, I saw the panicked expression on Gary's mother's face for the first time. I buried my head in Gary's chest, my shoulders shaking as I almost burst out laughing. Fate, even if it's tinged with blood, it has to be in my own hands. When I woke up, Gary was by the bedside, looking haggard with red-rimmed eyes. When he saw me wake up, tears streamed down his face. I'm sorry. I had never seen Gary so broken down. I wanted to touch him, but as soon as I moved slightly, the pain in my lower abdomen spread throughout my body. I felt a rare bit of pity and finally gave him a chance. Gary, let's part ways amicably. Gary held my hand, tears and snot all over his face. Sister, I'll change. I know I was wrong. I'll change everything. Don't leave me. My eyes were blank as I forcefully pulled my hand out of his. What about your mother and your fiancé? They won't let me go. Gary buried his head, and his tears soaked a large area of the bedsheet. People always grow up in the moment they bow their heads, just like Gary now. I won't listen to them anymore. I'll call off the engagement. Gary kept his word, even though I was carefully protected by him in the hospital. I could still see the news of the cancellation of the engagement between the Garys and Nicola's families, which was making a huge stir online. Naturally, the Nicola's family and Gary's mother didn't agree, but this time, Gary seemed to have grown all the rebellious bones that he hadn't had in the past 20-odd years and fought to the end. Even he, who had always been indifferent to business, started to seize power from his mother. When Gary's father passed away, Gary was too young, so the Garys group naturally fell into the hands of Gary's mother. But as Gary grew up, there were more and more voices in the company calling for the young master to take over. In the past, Gary, disdainful of money, paid no attention, but now that he wanted it, he also had 100 responses to his call. Perhaps in terms of ability, he couldn't compare to his mother, but there was me. I was lying in bed, browsing through one confidential document of Gary's group after another. While Gary served me tea and water, I looked at him with a smile. Aren't you afraid I'll do something bad, Gary? Gary peeled another orange for me, smiling sweeter than the orange. I trust, sister. I took the orange, closed the document in my hand, and handed it to him. Good boy, sign all of these. Gary carefully looked at the first few pages, then smiled at me. He didn't even look at the rest and signed all of them. He was as obedient as a pet dog. So cute. Maybe because the wound hadn't fully healed, I laughed until tears came out. The celebration of the new chairman of Gary's group taking office and our wedding were held together. Gary's mother naturally came to the wedding. You're very proud, aren't you? She looked much haggard, slapping the table. She lost her elegance. You poor, orphan nobody. You're so proud of marrying into a wealthy family by any means, aren't you? I tilted my head, admiring this reversal of positions. Auntie, calm down. It's a happy day. It would be bad if something bad happened. Gary's mother smashed the flowers all over the ground, like a madwoman. You were the one who ran into the knife yourself. You killed our child. You planned all of this. I nodded and added, for her. And I was the one who sent the location to Gary. Don't forget that, Auntie. Seeing that I was calm, Gary's mother grabbed her hair and screamed, You're only after the Jacksons family's money. you have evil intentions. What on earth do you take Gary for? I sighed. What else could it be? Of course I'm after the money. As for Gary, he's a stepping stone for me to climb up the social ladder, a ladder for me to rise. When my voice fell, there was a moment of silence all around, as if something had secretly changed. Then Gary's mother showed a strange smile, as if saying that I had finally revealed my true colors and that I was doomed. She turned around, pointed at me, and laughed maniacally. Ha, Gary, did you hear that? Do you still want to marry this woman who's using you? She's just a bitch. Gary walked out from behind the flower stand, his face looking complicated. I looked at Gary's mother, who was tidying her hair. You set me up. Gary's mother regained her usual arrogance and sneered. Your methods are crude, but they're quite effective. Indeed, although many things are known in our hearts, it's still unsightly when put on the table. I looked at Gary. What about you? You heard everything. Do you still want to marry me? Gary walked towards me. Under the increasingly delighted smile of Gary's mother, he hugged me and gave me a kiss. Of course, the smile on Gary's mother's face froze, and her expression became distorted, looking a bit comical. Then she roared, Gary, are you crazy? I patted Gary on the back and walked up to Gary's mother. I really felt pity for this woman who had been proud for half her life. Auntie, I forgot to tell you, all the shares of Gary's group are in my hands now. I'm the new chairman of Gary's group. I sighed again. Now you should beg me not to abandon Gary. Gary's mother's face turned deathly pale in an instant, but she still insisted on standing there. I don't believe it. You can ask Gary. Gary's mother was shaking all over. She took a step back, then rushed up to Gary, grabbed his collar, gnashing her teeth, crying and hitting him. Is it true? I'm asking you if what she said is true. Gary let his mother beat and scold him without moving, just lowering his head. Yes. Getting an affirmative answer, Gary's mother staggered and let go, stumbling around as if she had lost all her spirit. Crazy, really crazy. Ha, everyone's crazy. I walked up to Gary's mother, bent down to straighten her clothes, and wiped the tears from her face. You once tried to kill me, and I won't hold it against you. I set you up, and you don't hold it against me either. You'll still be the mother in the future. You won't lack anything that the old lady of the Jacksons family should have. I promise that the next heir of Gary's group will definitely be the child of Gary and me. I walked out of the room and saw someone unexpected. Harvey. He handed me a ring box. The simple wooden ring from the past was inlaid with a diamond the size of a pigeon egg, looking rather incongruous. I held the ring up to the sunlight and was blinded by the glare. Harvey, if I hadn't succeeded, would I not even have the wooden ring? Harvey didn't say anything, but I understood his answer. I handed the ring back to him, but he didn't take it. I owe you. I sneered and threw the ring into the sink. Now we're even again. The equity transfer document of Gary's group wasn't something I tricked Gary into signing. It was on the first page of the document. I waited for Gary to fly into a rage after reading it, and then I could justifiably implement all my plans for Gary's group. But Gary clearly read everything, yet he signed without the slightest hesitation. He didn't even question me. That day, I was lying in bed, driven crazy by his calmness. I angrily told him that I could never live by love in my life. I hate having my life controlled by others, even if this person is my partner. I don't believe in eternal love. True feelings will be abandoned sooner or later. I'm even less likely to depend on others for every day of my future. What right do you wealthy families have to trample on my life like this? I said a lot, so much that it was enough to tear apart our not so solid relationship. But Gary hugged me. Then let me be the weak one. Let me be the one who might be abandoned at any time. Let me depend on you, sister. I want to know how sad you were when I said I would keep you as my mistress. The way Gary looked at me was like a puppy offering its collar, gentle and inclusive. How could I not be moved? I've been gambling with my life since I was a child. This was the first time someone mortgaged everything to me. When the ring was put on my middle finger, I heard myself say, I do. The wedding veil rose in the wind, like a ladder to the sky. My name is Gary. I have a sworn enemy named Harvey. As the heirs of two major families in B City, being of similar age, we've been compared since we were kids. I was inferior to him in everything. Everyone said that Gary's group of this generation would lose to the Chim group until he went to college. The public opinion about us reversed dramatically. He actually wanted to break away from his family for a scheming woman from the bottom. When people talked about us again, it became the eldest young master of the Chim group is too smart for his own good, can't tell what's important, while the eldest young master of Gary's group is amorous but obedient. That was the first time I didn't listen to my mother. I applied for a flight route as fast as I could, and flew to H City in a private plane with my newly chosen girlfriend, whom I got after careful selection with a Hermes crocodile skin bag. I was ready to beat this down and out Harvey. Before meeting Harvey, I met Harvey's girlfriend. She was actually selling fried skewers on the street. I looked at the photo several times before I was sure that this obsequiously smiling woman was the book-loving female student in the photo. She was disheveled, not half as charming as my new girlfriend. I felt even more confident of winning. I deliberately went to the best styling studio in H City, got dressed up, and went to show off. But I happened to run into the scene of Harvey breaking up. I saw that shabby woman and the noble-looking Harvey sitting at a greasy and dirty noodle stand. A bowl of noodles was divided into 2 portions, but all the meat was in Harvey's bowl. Harvey took off the broken piece of wood and handed it to that woman. He walked up to me. His 188-centimeter height was quite oppressive. Harvey calmly wiped his mouth after finishing the noodles and came to me. "What are you doing here?" I pointed at the woman behind him who was crying and curled up into a ball. "Aren't you going to take care of her?" Harvey glanced at me without looking back. Instead, I stayed in H City for 3 days and found out everything about Harvey and that shabby woman in less than a year. The private detective showed me a lot of photos. 2 students who graduated from top universities in the country were so suppressed that they couldn't even find a decent job. They set up a night market stall, sold fried skewers, lived in a shared apartment. That broken piece of wood was actually their wedding ring, and their maximum savings were less than 200 yuan. They even had to share a cup of milk tea and a bowl of noodles. "You mean that good-for-nothing guy in room 303, his girlfriend supports him, and he doesn't do anything, not even wash his clothes. If I were his girlfriend, I'd have kicked him out long ago." The contemptuous tone in the recording pen was all engraved in my mind, ready to be used to mock Harvey when I got back. Before leaving, I deliberately went to that woman's stall, bought a skewer of fried food to take back and mock Harvey, but I couldn't resist eating it all up on the plane. Harvey was locked up at home for half a year and then was directly sent abroad for years later. When he returned to the country, I deliberately arranged to meet him at the same wine party. I originally wanted to ask him if he wanted to eat fried skewers, but looking at him gracefully cutting the steak, I thought it was boring. I patted the 2 female companions on my left and right. "Whichever of you can win over Harvey today, I'll reward her 5 million. That night, Harvey was almost drugged, and he reported me to my mother. My mother was so angry that she stopped all my credit cards and told me to get out of B City and fend for myself. I squatted on the roadside and thought for a long time about what to do. Finally, I used the last few hundred yuan on me to buy an economy class ticket to H City. That woman was so poor back then but could still support Harvey. Now that she has a company, she should be able to support me. The standard should at least not be worse than what Harvey had." The end.